Prydain or Prynawn every pony. This is BronyDan. It's not original, but hey, you try coming up with reality these days. Well, ever since I did my scriptless review on the remake of Beauty and the Beast last year, I thought it would be fun to try that again with this new film that's just come out in the UK called Aardman, the latest stop-motion animated film from Aardman Animations. Now, I will say this right now, this is going to be as spoiler-free as I can possibly make it, because I know that the film has not yet come out in the US, so I won't be spoiling anything major that happens in the film. Now, I was very excited when this movie came out, and honestly, I'm quite surprised that they actually did make it, because I'm not sure if this is true, but I think this was an idea that had been flying around the studios when Aardman were still partnered with DreamWorks, the idea of this prehistoric comedy film. But then, of course, as we all know, when Flushed Away was released and got mixed reviews and the two companies split, I think it was that DreamWorks first did the idea when they released The Croods, and I think The Croods is fine. I think The Croods is okay. So, I'm still kind of surprised that Aardman still went with their version of a prehistoric comedy film. So, and yeah, it's completely different from The Croods, and I think it's one I think it's probably everyone was more excited about, because the thing is with Aardman, I think they're like one of the few animation studios left where people get legitimately excited about whenever they release a new film, because, you know, unlike the other animation studios like DreamWorks and Disney or Pixar, where they will release like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 films a year, they release a film like once every 3 years. So it does garner a lot of excitement to know that Aardman is making another film, because I don't think, for me personally, I don't think Aardman have ever made a bad product, whether it is on television or in film. I think the weakest film they have made, for me, was Flushed Away. And even then, I think Flushed Away is okay, even if you can spot the obvious DreamWorks influences in it. So the plot of the movie is centered on this, this Stone Age tribe, and particularly one of the tribesmen, Doug, voiced by Eddie Redmayne, and how their valley gets invaded and conquered by the Bronze Age, led by Lord Nuth, played by Tom Hiddleston, and the only way that they can get their valley back from the Bronze Age is if they beat them in a football match, or, you know, soccer, as the Americans call it. And that is the basic plot of the movie. It is just a sports movie, but it's entertaining. It's a very entertaining, enjoyable film. I wouldn't say it is like the best Aardman film that they've made, but what makes it work, and of course what makes a lot of Aardman's films work, is the charm of it. It's a very charming film. There's a lot of likable characters. The plot is, you know, it's simple, it's predictable, but you just go along with it because, you know, it's just, I can't explain it. You just want to be with these characters, and you just like them. They're just likable characters. Even, you know, the villain, Lord Nuth, he is ridiculously funny and entertaining, and that is mainly down to Tom Hiddleston. I think it is just because, like, Tom Hiddleston he really does embrace the idea that this is a power-mad loon, and I think I'm not sure why he would, you know, fully embrace that type of role. But like I said, when you're listening to him, like, when you're doing an Aardman film, it always sounds like the people who are voicing the characters, you know, it does sound like they are having fun with it. Sometimes it doesn't really always work, but I'll get to who I'm talking about with that later on. So obviously, you've got the character of Doug, voiced by Eddie Redmayne, and I do like Eddie Redmayne, obviously. I mean, I liked him in The Theory of Everything, and you know, obviously, you know, being a Harry Potter fan, I liked him as Newt Scamander in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and you know, he is just likeable. I like this character. He's not exactly, I wouldn't say he's a naive type of character. He's, you know, he's very determined, and he does really want to, you know, get his valley back, even though if he is like, he is a bit of a simple character. You know, he is like Wallace in a way, which does make sense since, you know, Nick Park is directing this film, and I do think like Nick Park is clearly, you know, he's trying to get a very Wallace and Gromit style relationship in this movie with Doug and his his pet boar called Hognob, which I can remember when I saw the film, my dad was like, what's he called? Hobnob? And I was just like, no, it's Hognob. That'd have been funny if he was actually called Hobnob. Or maybe it is just a reference to Hobnob biscuits or something. But like I said, the relationship between Doug and Hognob, it is very much like Wallace and Gromit in a way, you know, like Doug is very, you know, simple, he, you know, always gets himself into these different scrapes, and Hognob is usually there to usually has to try and get him out of the scrapes. Of course, the only difference being is that, you know, Hognob can actually make noises, unlike Gromit, who was a silent character. I gotta say, I do like their relationship. There are loads of very funny scenes between the pair of them. And then you've got the other big star of this movie. I've already talked about Tom Hiddleston as Nuth. And the other character is, of course, Guna, played by Maisie Williams. And she is, you know, she wants to play football as well for the Bronze Age. And, you know, I don't know, she's not my favourite character. I think that's kind of down to Maisie Williams. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I don't mind Maisie Williams. I think she is a very good actress. It's just that the only good thing she's done is Game of Thrones. And I just don't think she can shake, like, she can't shake that off. Because, like, I don't know, when I'm listening, because, you know, I didn't believe her when she's voicing Guna in this film. I think maybe it is just because, you know, she can't do an accent. I think that's the thing. When I was listening to her, I was just like, oh no, I couldn't, like, I get it, like, it's a joke, you know, it's not meant to be taken seriously as an actual accent, but I don't know, she just doesn't sound capable, or she doesn't sound that confident in doing it, but it just doesn't hinder it, it doesn't feel organic as a character. And, you know, like, sometimes it slips into, like, this weird Scandinavian accent, and then okay, I swear once or twice it slips American, and I don't know, and I think I just, like, I want to like Maisie Williams, I really do. I like her in Game of Thrones, but that's all she can do. She's good at playing, like, you know, these tough, no-nonsense girls who is, you know, who's gonna fight back and get what she wants, and is very serious. She's not very good at playing, like, comedic roles, if you were, like, trying to be, like, oh, snarky or anything. I mean, just look at a Shielder in Doctor Who. Like, oh, like, that character was bullshit. I couldn't stand a Shielder, and that was partly due to the fact that, like, I don't think Maisie Williams, she's not, again, I know that this may just be a taste thing, but I just don't think she can get across playing characters that are meant to be, you know, funny. She can't, she struggles to do, like, comedy. I think that's her problem. And the rest of the cast are, you know, they're all, you know, just your standard, you know, classic British actors who are in an Aardman film because they just like art. Because, like, you know, Aardman is our biggest studio, and, you know, if you're offered a part in an Aardman film in Britain, you just do it. You're not going to argue. And, you know, and you do get some really big-named, you know, I wouldn't say big-named actors, but, you know, people in Britain, in British culture that people recognise. Like, you've got Timothy Spall as the tribe chief. He's, you know, he's good at playing, like, he is kind of like the straight man of the movie. He's the person who has to be, you know, he's the one who has to be convinced that this is a good idea and everything. And, you know, and the rest of the characters and all the, you know, I think he's, like, the only one who is, like, a well-established, you know, character. Everyone else is, you know, funny side characters played by well-known people. Like, you know, you got Mark Williams, Richard Iolade, is it, from the IT Crowd, you know, like Johnny Vegas, Miriam Margolyes, and Rob Brydon. Like, Rob Brydon, I think, should get massive props in this film, because I'm not going to say who he's playing, but he's playing, like, technically, like, 5 or 6 characters in the movie, and, you know, it's not, and it is just fun just to hear him trying to do these different voices. But maybe that is just because, like again, I love Rob Brydon. I love him in Gavin and Stacey, and I do like his only stand-up, the only stand-up show I think he's done. I don't think he's done another one, or at least if he has, I haven't seen it. But I think, oh, like, for me, Rob Brydon is, like, he was the standout. Wouldn't say he was the standout character or anything, far from it, but he was just the one where I was just like, they've just let him do his thing. They wanted Rob Brydon, and they just sort of thought, well, we can't just have him doing one character, let's just have him doing all these other characters as well. And it does sound like he is, like what you expect from Aardman, he is having a lot of fun. Now, as I've already said, I wouldn't say this is the funniest movie that Aardman has done, but there are a lot of, like, you know, it's the gag. I think always for me, Aardman's best strengths have never been, like, big belly laugh in your face humour. Their humour has always been, like, you know, like, minor, like it's like the small gags, I think, are where their humour is best, and they're the ones that people remember the most. It's like in A Close Shave when you know, Wallace is getting ready to go on the motorbike, and he goes through all this, like, Thunderbirds, you know, get up, you know, like he's sliding down slides, getting into his overalls and being slotted down into the motorbike and lifting up through the floor. And then, you know, Gromit just comes in through a door and just sits into the sidecar, and everybody just pisses themselves laughing at that. Or, you know, like in The Wrong Trousers when Wallace, you know, puts the takes the picture off the wall and reveals the safe, only to puts the picture back up. It, like, again, it's small, the small gags, I think, what drives Aardman's humour. And this movie is, I think, it's full of some really, like minor gags. I mean, like, there's the joke about like the joke about sliced bread, I thought was hilarious. I think that made me laugh myself, because it's like, it's an obvious joke, but it's just still funny, and the movie is just littered with, like, you know, subtle, you know, little gags in the movie. And, like, when I'm watching the film, I sometimes think, like, will Americans get some of it? I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of Americans do love Aardman's films and everything, but there are some of them, particularly with this film, because it's very, you know, it's British, it's English, yeah, like, it's British football. Like, would they get some of the jokes that they make in the film about it? Because there are a few, like football related gags in the film, which I'm not sure if you would get which I don't think you would get if you weren't British. Like, would Americans get, like, the like, they do the oggy oggy oggy, oi oi oi, they do that in the film, and I'm thinking, like, would Americans get that? Do they have oggy oggy oggy? Now, there was something that a lot of people, like, I've seen, you know, a few, like, some of the written reviews are written about this film, and this is one comment that I can remember reading about the film, and it's that this whole movie is a metaphor for Brexit, in a way. And I was just thinking, maybe they're just pulling, you know, they're focusing this a bit too much on the political side of what's going on in the world. But in a way, when I was watching the film, I was kind of like, you know, I can see some, like some links, like, you know, all the tribe, like the Stone Age tribe, they're meant to represent Britain, and, you know, of course they're all British accents and everything, and of course you got the Bronze Age, which I think is which represents, like, Europe. Everybody has, like, a European accent, and, you know, they're obsessed with football, and it's like, I don't know if that was the intention, because, like, you know, these are ideas and, like, things that would have been written, like, weeks, like years in advance, before we even got to this stage. So, I don't know, maybe originally they just thought it would be just a funny idea, but, you know, obviously because of the way politics is run nowadays and what's going on, particularly with this country, it's not difficult to sort of point out the comparisons between the two and think, yeah, that is a little bit on the nose. But, like, again, I'm not sure if that was the intent of Aardman, because, like I said, I don't know where they stand on the whole Brexit deal. But it's like, it's difficult to possibly ignore it if you can spot it. So those are my brief thoughts on what I thought of Early Man, and, like, it's Aardman. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just simple. It's a simple Aardman flick. It's enjoyable, you know, likable characters, brilliant, as always, stop motion animation. And I think that's why I would recommend, you know, going off to see this film, because, you know, I'm an admirer of stop motion. I love it as an art form. I really do enjoy it, and it is nice to know that even in this, you know, even as today of CGI, and, you know, like, always, like, CGI getting a lot of the attention it gets, it's nice to get a stop motion film and for it to do incredibly well in terms of critical reception. I'm not sure how much, like, if this movie will be a critical success. I hope it is, because I really do love Aardman. I do want them to continue. And, like I said, they haven't made a bad product yet. and I honestly hope they don't make a bad product. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on Early Man. I thought it's really good, really entertaining. There were a few, like, granted there are a few meh little bits here and there, but, you know, I like it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I went in there and I got what I expected. Nothing more, nothing else. So, there we go. And this is BronyDan saying, Nostar.